He didn't even look guilty. He stood in our apartment, phone in his hand, calm like this was just another Tuesday chore he'd checked off his list. "I already called," he said flatly. My heart stopped. "Called who?" "The immigration authority." The room went silent. My ears started ringing. My legs felt like they might buckle beneath me. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline, waiting for him to say he was joking. But his face stayed blank, almost bored. He shrugged like he'd just ordered takeout. "You should have thought about that before accusing me of cheating." The words hit me like ice water. My visa, my status, my entire life in this country, he just weaponized all of it with one phone call. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. My hands started shaking so badly I had to grip the kitchen counter to steady myself. "You're bluffing," I whispered, though I could already see the truth in his eyes. He held up his phone, showing me the call log, a number I didn't recognize, time-stamped 20 minutes ago. "I'm not," he said. "You wanted to play games? Now you're playing with real consequences." My phone buzzed on the counter, unknown number. I picked up the phone with trembling hands. The message was short, official. Cold. "This is a courtesy notice regarding your immigration status. You have been flagged for review. Please contact our office within 48 hours. I dropped the phone like it had burned me. You ruined my life," I said, my voice breaking. He actually laughed. Not a nervous laugh. A genuine, satisfied laugh. "No, Alessia, I just reminded you where you belong. Back home, where you came from." I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall, not in front of him. "I came here for you," I said quietly. "I left everything for you." "And that was your mistake," he replied, turning away from me like I was already gone. "You made yourself dependent on me. That's not my fault." I watched him walk to our bedroom, his bedroom now, apparently, and I realized something with horrible clarity. This wasn't spontaneous anger. This was calculated. He'd been planning this, waiting for the right moment to use this power over me. I heard drawers opening in the bedroom. Then he emerged with a black trash bag in his hands. He started shoving my things into it, clothes, books, the small photo album from my family in Italy. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Helping you pack," he said. "You'll want to get started." "My name is Alessia Romano. I'm 35 years old. I came to America from Italy 3 years ago for love." I didn't know love could sound like paperwork snapping shut, like doors locking, like trash bags being filled with your entire life. I stood in that apartment, the one we'd chosen together, the one where I'd learned to make American coffee and celebrate Thanksgiving, and watched a stranger wearing my boyfriend's face erase me. "How long do I have?" I asked, my voice hollow. He checked his phone casually. "The letter said you'd get official notice, but I'd say you have about 30 days before they start looking for you." 30 days. 1 month to figure out how to salvage 3 years of my life, or lose everything. "Where am I supposed to go?" I whispered. He shrugged, still packing my things. "Not my problem anymore." I looked around the apartment, my paintings on the wall, my recipes taped to the fridge, my favorite mug in the dish rack. All of it suddenly felt like it belonged to someone else. Someone who'd been naive enough to think love was enough. "You can't just kick me out," I said, finding a spark of fight. "I live here." He stopped packing and looked at me with cold eyes. "Check the lease," he said. "Your name isn't on it." Every argument we'd ever had suddenly made horrible sense. Every time he'd said, "Be careful with your visa." Every time he'd reminded me, "You don't have family here." Every time he'd mentioned, "It's a good thing you have me." I hadn't been his partner. I'd been leverage, insurance, control. I sat down on the couch, my mind racing back through 3 years of red flags I'd painted green. The way he'd discouraged me from making too many friends. "Americans are fake anyway," he'd said. The way he'd convinced me not to take that better job. "You don't want to draw attention to your status," he'd warned. The way he'd kept our finances separate. "It's cleaner this way," he'd insisted. He'd been building a cage around me so slowly I hadn't noticed until the door slammed shut. "I need somewhere to sleep tonight," I said, hating how small my voice sounded. He pointed to the couch without looking at me. "There, I'm not heartless." "Not heartless, just cruel." "I want the bedroom," I said, trying to hold on to some dignity. He walked to the bedroom door and locked it from the inside, pocketing the key. "Sleep on the couch, Alessia. You'll be gone soon anyway." I couldn't sleep, so I replayed everything in my mind. The screenshots I'd found on his laptop 2 days ago, messages to a woman named Kimberly, intimate messages, plans to meet, lies about working late. When I'd confronted him yesterday, he hadn't even tried to deny it. "So what?" he'd said. "You're being dramatic." Dramatic. That's what he'd called my pain. "You're sleeping with someone else," I'd said, my voice shaking. "You should be grateful I still let you live here," he'd replied. "Most guys would have kicked you out months ago when things got boring." Grateful? I was supposed to be grateful for betrayal, for being tolerated, for being discarded when something shinier came along. I'd packed a bag that night, planning to stay with my coworker Maria for a few days while I figured things out. But before I could leave, he'd made that phone call. The one that turned my heartbreak into a deportation threat. Now, lying on the couch under a thin blanket, I understood the truth. He hadn't reported me because I'd accused him of cheating. He'd reported me to keep me from leaving on my own terms. To punish me for daring to question him. To remind me that in his mind, I was disposable. The bedroom door stayed locked all night. He dumped me officially the next morning, like it was a business transaction. I woke up to him standing over the couch, already dressed for work. "I think it's best if we end this," he said, like he was canceling a subscription. "We've grown apart." Grown apart. That's how he described cheating and reporting me to immigration. "Pack what you need and be gone when I get home," he continued. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Like I was the one making things difficult. I sat up slowly, my body aching from the uncomfortable couch. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Figure it out," he said. "You're resourceful." He grabbed his keys and left for work without looking back. I sat there for 20 minutes in silence, too shocked to move. Then I started packing properly, everything that was mine, which turned out to be painfully little. I'd come to this country with 2 suitcases and big dreams. I was leaving this apartment with the same 2 suitcases and shattered hopes. As I folded clothes, I noticed something on the coffee table. The lease agreement. I picked it up and read it carefully. My name wasn't anywhere on it. Not as a tenant. Not as a co-signer. Nowhere. For 3 years I'd lived here with no legal protection. I just never realized I needed any. I stood outside the apartment building with my suitcases and nowhere to go. My phone had 3% battery left. I hadn't thought to charge it last night. Italy felt a million miles away. My family was there, my mother, my sister, my childhood friends, but calling them meant admitting I'd failed. That the American dream I'd chased had turned into a nightmare. America suddenly felt hostile. Every person who walked past felt like a threat. Every police car made my heart race. Was I illegal now? Could they arrest me on the street? I didn't even know the rules. I'd let him handle everything. My phone buzzed. A text from Maria, my coworker from the restaurant where I worked part-time. "Hey, you okay? You missed your shift this morning." I'd completely forgotten about work. About the life that still existed outside of this disaster. I texted back with shaking fingers, "Can I call you?" "Emergency." Her response came immediately. "Yes. Now." I called her, and when she answered, I started crying so hard I could barely speak. "Alessia, what happened?" I managed to choke out the basics. The breakup, the immigration report, the fact that I was standing on a sidewalk with nowhere to sleep tonight. "Come to my place," she said without hesitation. "Right now. Do you need me to pick you up?" I slept on Maria's couch under a borrowed blanket. The apartment was small, cramped, already full with Maria and her roommate, but they made space for me without complaint. I cried silently that first night so no one would hear. Pride dissolves fast when survival takes over. The next morning, Maria made me coffee and sat with me at her tiny kitchen table. "You need a lawyer," she said gently, "someone who knows immigration law." "I can't afford a lawyer," I replied, staring into my coffee. "There are free legal clinics," she insisted. "I'll help you find one." I nodded, but inside I felt hollow. What could a lawyer do? He'd already made the call. The damage was done. "Did he really report you just because you caught him cheating?" Maria asked, her voice full of disbelief. "Yes," I said. "He wanted to punish me, to show me he had all the power." Maria shook her head. "That's not just cruel, that's evil." Evil. Maybe she was right. For the next week, I existed in a fog. I went to work, served customers, smiled when I was supposed to, but inside, I was counting down. 30 days. Then what? Maria gave me her couch, her Wi-Fi password, and her friendship. It was more than I deserved and more than I'd ever gotten from the man I'd moved across an ocean for. Then a letter arrived, official envelope, heavy paper. Maria handed me the envelope with worried eyes. I sat on her couch and stared at it for 5 full minutes before opening it. Official seal, Department of Homeland Security letterhead. My chest tightened so much I thought I might pass out. This wasn't fear anymore. This was countdown. This was real. I opened it with trembling hands. The letter was dense with legal language I barely understood, but certain phrases jumped out. Violation of visa terms, mandatory review hearing, possible removal proceedings. You have 30 days to respond. 30 days. Just like he'd said. I read it 3 times, trying to make sense of it. Trying to find a loophole, a way out, anything. But the message was clear. I was in serious trouble. Maria read it over my shoulder. This doesn't mean you're being deported, she said carefully. It means you have to respond, to prove your case. What case? I asked bitterly. I overstayed my welcome. I'm exactly what they think I am. No, Maria said firmly. You're here legally. You have a visa. You've been working, paying taxes, following the rules. But he reported me, I said. He told them something. I don't even know what he said. I felt paralyzed. Part of me wanted to just book a one-way ticket back to Italy. To run before they could deport me. At least that way I'd leave on my own terms. But another part of me, a smaller, angrier part, refused to let him win that easily. Work became my hiding place. The restaurant was loud, busy, full of people who didn't know my story. I smiled through meetings with managers. I scrubbed toilets after closing. I took every extra shift they offered. Anything to stay busy. Anything to stay invisible. But 2 weeks after the letter arrived, HR called me into the office. I walked in with my heart hammering, convinced this was it. They knew. They were going to fire me. The HR manager, a kind woman named Patricia, gestured for me to sit. Alessia, we're just doing routine check-ins with all staff, she said, making sure everyone's documentation is up to date. My mouth went dry. Documentation? Work authorization, visa status, that sort of thing, she said casually. It's standard, nothing to worry about. But I was worrying. I was drowning in worry. My visa is fine, I said too quickly. Everything's current. Patricia nodded, making notes. Great, we'll just need to see updated paperwork by the end of the month. I nodded too much, agreed too fast, said too little. When I left her office, my hands were shaking so badly I had to hide in the bathroom. This was how it would happen, slowly, systematically. Every part of my life in America would start asking questions I couldn't answer. That night, I got a message on Facebook. From him. The message was short and cruel. Heard you're working extra shifts. Should have listened when I told you to be grateful. Hope it was worth it. He was watching me, keeping tabs, making sure I knew he still had power over me. I stared at the message for a long time. Then, for the first time since this nightmare started, I chose myself. I blocked him. On Facebook. On my phone. Everywhere. I cut the last thread connecting us. It felt like jumping off a cliff, terrifying and liberating at the same time. Maria noticed the change when I got home that night. You look different, she said. I blocked him, I replied. She smiled. Good. He doesn't deserve to exist in your world anymore. That weekend, Maria dragged me to a community event, a fundraiser for a local charity. You need to get out, she insisted. Meet people. Remember, you're more than the situation. I didn't want to go, but Maria had given me her couch and her kindness. The least I could do was trust her. At the fundraiser, surrounded by strangers and small talk, I felt like I was pretending to be human. Then a man approached me, quiet, gentle eyes. No aggressive energy. You look like you'd rather be anywhere else, he said with a small smile. I laughed despite myself. That obvious? Only to someone who feels the same way, he replied. I'm Daniel Mitchell. Daniel didn't push, didn't pry, didn't overwhelm. He just listened. We talked for an hour at that fundraiser about nothing important. Books, coffee, the weather. He didn't ask why I looked sad, didn't demand my story, and somehow, that made me want to tell him. Before I left, he asked if I'd like to get coffee sometime. I hesitated. My life was a disaster. I was potentially weeks away from deportation, but something in his calm presence made me say yes. We met for coffee 3 days later. This time, when he asked about my life, I didn't deflect. I'm going through something complicated, I said carefully. Immigration issues. Most people would have gotten uncomfortable, made excuses, left. Daniel just nodded. That sounds really stressful. It is, I admitted. Do you have a good lawyer? He asked. I shook my head. I can't afford one. He pulled out his phone and started typing. I have a friend, immigration attorney, does pro bono work for cases like yours. I stared at him. Why would you help me? You don't even know me. He looked up from his phone. Because you need help, and I can provide it. That seems like enough reason. No strings, no conditions, no power games, just simple human kindness. I started crying right there in the coffee shop. Daniel handed me a napkin and waited patiently while I pulled myself together. I'll send you her contact information, he said. No pressure, but she's good. She's helped a lot of people. Daniel's friend was named Sophia Torres, immigration attorney, 15 years of experience. She met with me for free at her office downtown. I told her everything. The relationship, the cheating, the phone call, the letter. She listened carefully, taking notes. Did he make false claims when he reported you? She asked. I don't know what he said, I admitted. Sophia pulled up records on her computer. I can request the complaint, see what we're working with. She typed for a few minutes, then frowned. He claimed you were working illegally, that you'd violated your visa terms by taking unauthorized employment. My stomach dropped. But I have work authorization. My visa allows me to work. I know, Sophia said, which means his complaint was false, potentially malicious. I felt a tiny spark of hope. So, I'm not in trouble? You're in a process, Sophia corrected gently. But we can fight this. We can prove his claims were baseless. It'll take time, but you have a case. Time. I had 30 days. Sophia saw my panic. 30 days to respond, Alessia. Not 30 days total. Once we respond, the timeline extends. You're not getting deported next month. I could breathe again. For the first time in weeks, I could actually breathe. Over the next 2 months, Sophia built my case. She gathered my work documents, my tax returns, my visa paperwork. She requested the complaint details and found inconsistencies in his claims. Daniel checked in regularly. Coffee dates turned into dinner. Dinner turned into long walks. He never asked for anything, never made me feel like I owed him. He was just there, steady, kind, real. Why are you being so nice to me? I asked him one evening. We were sitting on a bench in the park, watching the sunset. Daniel thought about it for a moment. My mom was an immigrant, he said quietly. She came here from the Philippines with nothing. People helped her when they didn't have to. I guess I'm returning the favor. Did she make it? I asked. Did things work out for her? He smiled. She became a citizen, built a life, raised me and my sister. She passed away 2 years ago. But yeah, things worked out. I felt tears threatening again. I'm sorry about your mom. Me too, he said. But she taught me something important. The system is broken, but people don't have to be. I looked at this man who'd shown up in my life at exactly the right moment. No, not shown up. He'd been placed there. By whatever force governs these things. I don't know how to thank you, I whispered. You don't have to, he replied. Just keep fighting. That's enough. 3 months after the letter arrived, Sophia successfully argued my case. The immigration review was dismissed. The complaint was found to be baseless and malicious. I wasn't being deported. I could stay. I called Daniel immediately, crying with relief. I get to stay, I sobbed. I get to stay. I never doubted it, he said warmly. That night, Daniel took me to dinner to celebrate. We talked about everything, my plans, my dreams, what I wanted to do now that I had a future again. I want to go back to school, I said. Finish my degree, maybe in social work, help other immigrants navigate this system. Daniel smiled. You'd be incredible at that. As we walked back to my car, I was still living with Maria, but I'd been saving money. Daniel stopped suddenly. Alessia, can I ask you something? Of course. He looked nervous for the first time since I'd met him. Would you consider, I know this might be too soon, but he took a breath. Would you consider building a life here, with me? I stared at him. What are you asking? I'm asking if you'd be open to something real, something permanent. Not because you need me, but because you want to. My heart felt too big for my chest. Yes, I said. I'd be very open to that. He smiled, relief flooding his face, and for the first time in months I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. But then my ex resurfaced. A message on LinkedIn, because I'd blocked him everywhere else. Heard you're still here. Thought you'd be gone by now. Guess you found someone to use. Use. He was projecting his own cruelty onto me. I showed the message to Daniel, who read it with a tight jaw. He's trying to get under your skin, Daniel said. Don't let him. I'm not, I replied. I'm just tired of him trying. Daniel thought for a moment. Do you want me to respond? Tell him to stop contacting you? No, I said firmly. I don't want him to know anything about my life. He doesn't deserve that information. I blocked him on LinkedIn too, but the message bothered me more than I wanted to admit. The truth was, part of me was still afraid of him, of what he might do. 2 weeks later, another letter arrived at Maria's apartment. My heart stopped when I saw the official envelope. But this one was different. This one had hope in it. It was my work visa extension approval, a full 2-year renewal. I was legal, secure, protected. I cried reading it, but this time from relief. Maria hugged me. You did it. You actually did it. We did it, I corrected. I couldn't have done this without you. That evening, Daniel came over with flowers and a nervous smile. I have something to ask you, he said. Daniel got down on one knee right there in Maria's cramped living room. Alessia Romano, he said. I know we haven't known each other long, but I know enough to know I want to know everything. Will you marry me? The ring was simple, beautiful, perfect. I said yes through tears. Not because I needed to be saved. I'd already saved myself. Not because I needed papers. I had those now. I said yes because I wanted to. Because Daniel saw me not as leverage, not as disposable, as whole, as worthy, as enough. Maria screamed and hugged us both. We got married 6 months later in a small ceremony. My family flew in from Italy. Daniel's sister stood as his best woman. Maria was my maid of honor. It was small, intimate, and completely ours. My visa converted to a green card through marriage, but that wasn't why we did it. We did it because love, real love, isn't about control. It's about choice. And I chose him every day. The years passed quickly after that. Daniel and I built a life. I went back to school, earned my degree in social work. I got a job at an immigration advocacy nonprofit, helping people like me navigate the system. We had 2 children, a daughter named Sophia after my lawyer, and a son named Marco after my father. We bought a house with a backyard. I became a citizen. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. America became home not because someone trapped me here, but because I built something worth staying for. I rarely thought about my ex anymore, until the day an invitation arrived in the mail. The invitation was from an old acquaintance, someone I'd known casually years ago. Her son was graduating from college. Big backyard party. Everyone was invited. Do you want to go? Daniel asked, reading over my shoulder. I don't know, I said honestly. I haven't seen these people in years. Might be nice, he suggested. Show the kids off, catch up. So we went. The party was everything I expected. Balloons, a banner, a table full of food. Sophia and Marco ran around the yard with other children, their laughter filling the air. I stood with Daniel, chatting with people I barely remembered. And then I saw him. Standing by the drink table, older now, his hair thinning, his face harder. My ex, I froze completely. Daniel followed my gaze. Is that him? I could only nod. My ex's eyes scanned the party, landed on me, and went wide. He froze too. For a moment, we just stared at each other across the crowded backyard. Then his eyes moved, to my hand where my wedding ring caught the sunlight, to my children playing in the grass, to Daniel standing protectively beside me. His face went through several emotions, shock, confusion, something that might have been regret. I felt Daniel's hand on the small of my back. Do you want to leave? No, I said quietly. I'm fine. Because I really was. My ex walked toward us slowly, like he wasn't sure if he should. He stopped a few feet away, his hands shoved in his pockets. Alessia, he said, his voice uncertain. Hello, I replied, my voice steady. Daniel extended his hand politely. I'm Daniel, Alessia's husband. My ex shook his hand limply, clearly thrown. We used to date. I know, Daniel said simply. An awkward silence stretched between us. My ex looked at me, at my children, at the life I was clearly living. You look good, he said finally. Happy. I am, I replied. He shifted uncomfortably. I heard you got your papers sorted out, that you stayed. I did. Good, that's good. Another silence. Then he said quietly, I didn't know you'd. I held up a hand gently, stopping him. It doesn't matter, I said. That was a long time ago. But we both knew what he'd been about to say. He didn't know I'd be okay. He didn't know I'd rebuild. He didn't know I'd not only survive, but thrive. He'd expected me to break, to leave, to disappear. Instead, I'd become someone he didn't recognize, someone he couldn't hurt anymore. Sophia ran up and grabbed my hand. "Mama, can I have juice?" "Of course, Tesoro," I said, smiling at her. My ex watched this exchange, something flickering in his eyes. "Your daughter?" he asked. "Yes, Sophia, and that's Marco." I pointed to my son. He looked at them, at me, at Daniel. "You have a beautiful family," he said, and his voice cracked slightly. "Thank you," I said simply. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say more, but what was there to say? "I'm sorry" wouldn't change what he did. "I was wrong" wouldn't give me back the months of fear. "I regret it" wouldn't erase the cruelty. So I didn't wait for words that wouldn't matter. I smiled politely, the smile you give strangers. "It was nice seeing you," I said. "I hope you're well." Then I turned to Daniel. "Should we get the kids some cake?" Daniel nodded, understanding exactly what I was doing. We walked away together, our children between us, toward the dessert table. I didn't look back. Behind me, I heard my ex still standing there, alone. As we reached the cake table, Daniel leaned close and whispered, "You okay?" "I'm perfect," I said and meant it. Sophia tugged my sleeve. "Mama, who was that man?" "Nobody important, sweetheart," I replied. And it was true. He was nobody. Not a villain in my story anymore. Not even a chapter I revisited. Just a person I used to know who'd taught me what love wasn't. I watched my children pick out cake, watched Daniel make them laugh, watched my life continue exactly as it should. And I realized something profound. I didn't need him to apologize. I didn't need him to understand what he'd done. I didn't even need him to regret it. I'd already moved so far past him that his remorse was irrelevant. We stayed at the party for another hour. I caught my ex watching me several times, watching me laugh with my kids, kiss Daniel's cheek, talk animatedly with old acquaintances. Each time he looked more uncomfortable, more out of place, like he was the one who didn't belong. Finally, as we were getting ready to leave, he approached me one more time. Daniel was buckling Marco into the car seat. I was holding Sophia's hand. "Alessia, can we talk?" he asked. "Just for a minute?" I looked at my daughter, then back at him. "I don't think there's anything to talk about." "Please," he said, and his voice held something I'd never heard before. Desperation. I told Sophia to go help Daddy with her brother. She skipped away happily. I turned to my ex and waited. He seemed to struggle with where to start. "I was wrong," he finally said. "About everything. The way I treated you, calling immigration, all of it." I stayed quiet. "I was angry that you were leaving me," he continued. "I wanted to hurt you, to control you. I didn't think about what it would do to your life." "No," I agreed. "You didn't." "I'm sorry," he said. "I know it's too late, but I'm sorry." I studied his face. He looked older, tired, genuinely regretful. But I also saw something else. He wasn't just sorry for what he'd done. He was sorry he'd lost me, sorry I'd moved on, sorry I was happy without him. "I accept your apology," I said calmly, "but I want you to understand something." He looked up hopefully. "I forgive you not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. Your apology doesn't change my past, but my forgiveness frees my future." His face crumpled slightly. "I see that now, that you're better off, that he gestured toward Daniel, treats you right." "Yes," I said simply, "he does." "I'm alone now," my ex admitted quietly. "Kimberly left after 6 months, said I had commitment issues." He laughed bitterly. "Turns out treating people like they're disposable doesn't build lasting relationships." I didn't know what to say to that. "I see it with your family," he continued, "and I realize what I could have had if I'd just been better." "You could have been," I agreed. "But you chose differently." "I was stupid," he said. "Young and stupid and selfish." "You were," I confirmed. "But I'm not interested in rehashing the past. I have a future to focus on." He nodded slowly, accepting the boundary. "Can I ask you something?" he said. "Okay." "Do you ever think about what we had? About what we could have been?" I considered the question honestly. "No," I said gently, "because what we had wasn't real. It was control disguised as love. And what we could have been doesn't matter because we weren't those people." "But you're that person now," he said, gesturing to my life. "You became her." "Yes," I agreed, "but not with you. I became this person despite you. In spite of you." The distinction was important. He seemed to understand. "Your kids are lucky," he said. To have a mom who's so strong. They have a dad who's even stronger, I replied, looking at Daniel, who was making Marco laugh in the car. My ex followed my gaze and nodded. He's a good man. The best, I confirmed. Another silence, but this one felt final. I should go, he said. Okay? He hesitated, then said, for what it's worth, I'm glad you're happy. I really am. And surprisingly, I believed him. He started to walk away, then turned back one more time. Alessia, I need you to know, I didn't just lose you. I lost who I could have become with you. You made me want to be better, and I was too scared to try. I felt a softness toward him then. Not love, not forgiveness beyond what I'd already given. Just compassion for the person he could have been, for the man he was learning to become. It's not too late, I said. To be better. To do better. Just not with me. He smiled sadly. I know. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said, and meant it. I hope I deserve to, he replied. With that, he walked to his car, a modest sedan, nothing like the flashy truck he used to drive, and left. I watched him go, feeling nothing but relief. Daniel walked up beside me, Sophia in his arms. All good? All good, I confirmed. We drove home in comfortable silence, the kids dozing in the back. When we pulled into our driveway, I looked at our house, the flower boxes I'd planted, the swing set in the yard, the warm lights in the windows. This was mine, not because someone allowed it, because I'd built it. What are you thinking? Daniel asked, taking my hand. That I won, I said simply. He smiled. You did, completely. That night, after the kids were asleep, Daniel and I sat on our back porch with wine. He looked broken, Daniel observed. He was, I agreed. But that's not my responsibility anymore. Do you think he's changed? I considered the question. Maybe. People can change, but whether he has or hasn't doesn't affect my life anymore. Daniel nodded. You were kind to him, more than he deserved. I was kind for me, I corrected, not for him. Over the next few weeks, I found myself thinking about the encounter less and less. It became just another memory. Not painful, not significant, just there. My ex didn't try to contact me again, and I was grateful. He'd said his piece, I'd said mine. The chapter was finally truly closed. Meanwhile, my life continued its beautiful rhythm. Sophia started kindergarten. Marco learned to ride a bike. Daniel got a promotion. I became the director of my nonprofit, overseeing a team of advocates helping immigrants navigate the system that had once terrified me. On my citizenship ceremony anniversary, I took my family to the park where Daniel had first asked me to build a life with him. We had a picnic. The kids played. Daniel and I watched them holding hands. I'm proud of you, he said quietly. For what? For everything. For surviving. For thriving. For choosing joy after everything tried to take it from you. I leaned my head on his shoulder. I had help. You had resilience, he corrected. The help just made it easier. I thought about the scared woman I'd been 5 years ago, standing outside an apartment with 2 suitcases and nowhere to go. I thought about the phone call that had tried to destroy my life. I thought about the man who'd treated me as disposable. And I smiled. Because none of it had broken me. All of it had built me. Do you ever regret staying? Daniel asked. In America, I mean. Do you ever wonder what life would have been like if you'd gone back to Italy? I looked at my children, playing tag on the grass. I looked at my husband, his eyes full of love and respect. I looked at my life, complicated, beautiful, entirely mine. No, I said, I don't regret it, because I didn't just stay in America. I found home. Years passed, and the encounter with my ex faded into background noise. Life moved forward, as it always does. Sophia graduated from high school. Marco followed 3 years later. Daniel and I celebrated our 15th anniversary. I became a citizen advocate, speaking at conferences, writing articles, helping change immigration policies. My ex became a distant memory, someone I used to know in a life I used to live. I learned that the real revenge isn't dramatic confrontation. It isn't proving someone wrong or making them hurt the way they hurt you. The real revenge is building a life so full, so rich, so undeniably yours, that they become irrelevant. He tried to make me disposable. Instead, I became untouchable. Not because I was bitter or vengeful, but because I was free. Free from needing his approval. Free from fearing his power. Free from caring about his opinion. He'd wanted to destroy me, but he'd accidentally set me free. And I'd used that freedom to become someone I was proud of. Someone my children looked up to. Someone who helped others find their own strength. someone who knew her worth and never settled for less. On my 50th birthday, surrounded by family and friends, I made a toast. To surviving the things that tried to break us, I said, raising my glass, and to thriving because of them, not despite them. Everyone cheered. Daniel kissed my cheek. My children hugged me, my friends celebrated me, and somewhere out there my ex was living whatever life he'd built. I hoped it was a good one. I hoped he'd learned and grown. But mostly, I just didn't think about him at all. Because that's the sweetest revenge of all, not needing revenge. Just living well. Just being happy. Just being free. I was disposable to him once. Now I was untouchable. Not because he couldn't hurt me anymore, though he couldn't, but because I'd built a life where his hurt didn't matter. Where his opinion didn't matter. Where he didn't matter. And that wasn't cruelty, that was peace. The kind of peace you earn by choosing yourself. By fighting for yourself. By believing you deserve more than crumbs of affection from someone who sees you as leverage. I'd been reported to immigration as punishment. I'd become a citizen as triumph. And that journey, painful, terrifying, transformative, had shaped me into someone capable of real love. Someone worthy of it. Someone who knew the difference. My ex had treated me like I was disposable. But I'd proven to myself that I was invaluable. And in the end, my opinion was the only one that mattered.